You've probably planned a funeral before, or at least imagined one. Black clothes, quiet rooms, someone reading words that are supposed to help. It feels like tradition. It feels old. But the real answer is far stranger than tradition. What your ancestors did with their dead is one of the strangest, most revealing chapters in the human story, and it starts almost 300,000 years ago, long before writing, before farming, before anything you'd recognize as civilization. Picture a cave in what is now northern Spain. Deep inside, past the point where daylight reaches, researchers found something that shouldn't have been there. Bones, human bones. Dozens of individuals, all belonging to an early human relative called Homo heidelbergensis. They didn't fall in. They didn't wash in with floodwater. Someone carried them there. Someone chose that spot, in the dark, far from where anyone lived. Why would a species with no written language, no religion as you'd define it, go through that effort? This is the question that anthropologists call the mortuary puzzle, because burying or placing the dead costs something. It takes time, it takes energy. In a world where every calorie mattered and every hour outside the group was a risk, spending both on someone who could no longer benefit from it makes no obvious survival sense, and yet it kept happening again and again across different species of early humans, on different continents, separated by hundreds of thousands of years. At Cima de los Huesos, the Spanish cave in question, one skull stood out. It had a hand axe placed near it, a finely crafted stone tool that would have taken skill and time to make. Archaeologist Juan Luis Arzuaga, who led excavations there for decades, described it as one of the first hints of symbolic behavior in the human lineage. Not just discarding a body, marking it, giving it something. Now fast forward. Around 100,000 years ago, at a site called Kafze in what is now Israel, researchers uncovered a burial of a different kind. A body deliberately positioned, arms folded with deer antlers placed in the hands. This wasn't an accident of geology. This was intention. This was someone deciding that a person, even after death, deserved an object, deserved a gesture. Here's what makes this strange, and here's what makes it human. Death, to early humans, wasn't simply a biological event. It became a rupture, a hole in the group. And the response to that hole, over and over, was ritual. Not because ritual kept anyone warm, not because it fed anyone, because it did something else entirely. It managed grief. It reinforced belonging. It told the rest of the group silently that a life had mattered. Anthropologist Paul Pettit, who has spent much of his career studying Paleolithic burial, argues that these earliest funerary acts weren't really about the dead at all. They were about the living. Burying a body, decorating it, returning to a gravesite again and again. These were behaviors aimed at the people still breathing, at their fear, at their confusion, at their need to make sense of an absence that otherwise felt unbearable. And that need shows up in strange, specific ways across the archaeological record. At Sunghir in modern-day Russia, roughly 34,000 years ago, two children were buried head-to-head, covered in thousands of tiny ivory beads. Each bead would have taken, by some estimates, close to an hour to carve by hand. Do the math. Thousands of beads, thousands of hours, for two children who could give nothing back to the group that made them. Why would a hunter-gatherer band, living hand-to-mouth, invest thousands of hours of skilled labor into decorating the dead? Because grief demanded an outlet. Because the group needed a way to say, this loss is enormous, and we will prove it with our hands, even if it costs us everything we have. This is where the story bends towards something you might recognize. Because you still do this, not with ivory beads, with flowers, with headstones, with money spent on caskets that will never be seen again once the ground closes over them. The impulse hasn't gone anywhere, it just changed its materials. There's a deeper layer here too, one that connects to how the human brain processes loss. Neuroscientist Mary Frances O'Connor, who studies grief at the level of brain activity, has shown that losing someone close to you activates regions tied to physical pain and to attachment, the same circuitry that once helped keep early